For 20 years, the scream of the Yamaha M1 was the sound of elegance. It was the ballet dancer of the grid, a masterpiece of corner speed and silk-smooth handling. But in the modern era of MotoGP, elegance is no longer enough to win. Ducati, KTM, and Aprilia have turned the sport into a brutal arms race of raw power and aerodynamic violence. While the world was watching the championship fight, a different kind of noise began to echo through the hills of Tuscany. At a private closed-door test at the legendary Mugello Circuit, the silence was shattered by a sound that didn't belong to a Yamaha. It wasn't the high-pitched whistle of the inline-4. It was the distinct, aggressive, thunderous growl of a V4. Yamaha, the last holdout of the traditional engine philosophy, has finally admitted defeat. This is the first time the public is hearing the V4 project, a desperate multi-million-dollar gamble to save the most successful Japanese brand in racing history. But as the garage doors at Mugello slid open, one thing was clear. Yamaha isn't just building a new engine. They've brought in a hired assassin to break it. No one inside the paddock expected what would unfold next, and it would change everything for him, his team, and the entire 2026 season. But behind the calm expression of the Yamaha technical staff, pressure was building fast. To lead this revolution, they didn't just need a fast rider, they needed a man who could push a prototype to its absolute breaking point. Enter Toprak Razgatlioglu. The three-time Superbike world champion, known to fans as Stoprak, has officially landed in the MotoGP paddock. His mission? To take Yamaha's raw, unrefined V4 beast and subject it to a level of violence it wasn't designed to handle. Toprak is famous for a riding style that defies physics, balancing his bike on the front wheel while entering corners at 200 kilometers per hour. Inside the garage, whispers began spreading as the telemetry screens lit up. The data was terrifying. Toprak wasn't testing the bike, he was attacking it. Yamaha's senior test rider, the veteran Andrea Dovizioso, stood on the pit wall, eyes narrowed. He knows better than anyone what a V4 requires, yet what he was seeing from the Turkish rider was something entirely new. Yet the real turning point happened away from the cameras. As the technical team realized that Toprak's stoppy braking style was the ultimate stress test for a chassis that was still in its infancy. And from that moment, nothing would ever be the same for the engineers at Iwata. For decades, the inline-4 engine was Yamaha's DNA. It was the heart of the bikes that carried Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo to legendary titles, but the screamer era is over. The technical reality is brutal. An inline-4 engine is wide. It's smooth, but it creates a massive wall of air that ruins modern aerodynamics. By switching to a V4, Yamaha is finally narrowing the bike, allowing for the aggressive winglets and ground effect fairings that make the Ducatis so dominant. But this transition is a nightmare for the old guard engineers in Japan. Moving the bank of cylinders from a line to a V changes everything: the weight distribution, the firing order, and the way the bike talks to the rider. According to team insiders, Yamaha tried everything to make the inline-4 work, but they hit a ceiling. However, the twist that followed would change the championship narrative entirely, as the focus shifted from pure speed to a much more dangerous question: could this new heart actually survive a race? Yet the real challenge began on the second day of testing. The honeymoon phase of day one was over. Now, Yamaha's technical team meticulously monitored every aspect of the engine for one specific goal: durability. Mugello was chosen as the executioner. With its 1.1-kilometer-long straight, the engines are forced to scream at maximum revs for nearly 15 seconds every single lap. Yamaha's engineers deliberately limited setup changes. They didn't care about the suspension or the tires. They wanted to see if the V4 would explode under the extreme heat and pressure of a full race simulation. Toprak was sent out for long runs, continuous stints of 20 or more laps at a relentless pace. Every time he pitted, the mechanics swarmed the bike, checking operating temperatures and fuel stability. There were no smiles in the garage, only the cold, hard focus of men who knew that one metal shaving in the oil could set the project back by 6 months. But what the paddock discovered next shocked everyone, as the telemetry revealed a stability that Yamaha hadn't seen in years. But even as the engine held together, Toprak was preparing to test the chassis in the most violent way possible. At the end of the Mugello straight lies San Donato, a corner that requires riders to drop from 350 kilometers per hour to just 90 in a matter of seconds. Insiders claimed something felt off as Toprak approached the braking zone. He wasn't just braking late, he was bypassing the traditional markers entirely. Telemetry showed he was maintaining maximum brake pressure for durations that would usually cause the front tire to collapse. The bike was dancing. The rear wheel was inches off the asphalt, the V4 engine braking system fighting to keep the machine from spinning out. It was a staggering display of control. While other riders in the test tried to replicate his lines, they found themselves running wide into the gravel. Toprak, however, was able to rotate the V4 with a precision that left the technical directors hysterical with excitement. Yet this was only the beginning of a far bigger storm, as the Dovizioso factor began to play a role. Inside the garage, the presence of Andrea Dovizioso added a layer of psychological tension. Dovizioso is the man who built the modern Ducati V4. He knows the secrets of the configuration. If he was impressed, the rest of the grid should be worried. Dovi was reportedly speechless after reviewing Toprak's data. It wasn't just the lap times, which were rumored to be approaching Marc Marquez's historic benchmarks, it was the human-machine connection. Usually, a V4 is a beast that takes years to tame. Toprak was treating it like a toy. But rumors suggested deeper tension behind closed doors. While Toprak was flying, the electronic power management was still struggling to catch up. The V4 has a violent power delivery compared to the inline 4, and if the electronics aren't perfect, the bike will eat its tires in 5 laps. What happened after that left even his closest team members stunned, as Yamaha prepared for the final phase of the Mugello lockdown. And from that moment, the narrative of the 2026 season was rewritten. Yamaha is no longer the team in crisis. They are the team with the secret weapon. The Mugello test proved that the V4 isn't just a prototype, it's a functional, stable engine that can withstand extreme loads. But the road to the 2026 opener in Bararam is still filled with rifts and disputes. The transition requires a spirit of challenge that the team hasn't felt in a decade. They are fighting the weight of expectations and the staggering pace of Ducati's development. The data gathered from Mugello will now be sent back to Japan to finalize the cooling systems and aero packages. The Plan V is no longer a dream. It is a reality that has the entire paddock from Fabio Quartararo to Marc Marquez looking over their shoulders. But the real question remains, can Yamaha's V4 Soul survive the heat of a real battle, or was Mugello just a flash of brilliance before the inevitable collapse? The series of tests at Mugello concluded with a sense of explosive optimism. Yamaha has successfully transitioned from the last holdout to the new challenger. They didn't rush. They opted for a gradual, detailed approach to ensure that when the V4 finally debuts, it doesn't just participate, it dominates. Toprak Razgatlioglu has proven that his Stoprak style is the perfect match for the V4's aggression. He has redefined what is possible on a Yamaha M1, turning a technical setback into a shocking comeback. As the sun set over the Tuscan hills, the V4 was pushed back into its crate, hidden from prying eyes once again. The 2026 season is approaching, and for the first time in years, Yamaha isn't just hopping for a miracle, they are building one. The roar of the V4 may have gone silent for now, but the echoes of the Mugello shockwave are only just beginning to be felt across the world of MotoGP.